Hello happy travelers! Kevin and I just spent an amazing 11 days in Fiji, and in this video I'm going to break down exactly how much money we spent on our vacation and give you some money saving tips so you can make the most of your vacation in Fiji. I am going to break down our expenses into categories, which will be outlined in chapters in this video, so you can check those down below. If you want to see more of our Fiji vacation, make sure you check out our detailed Fiji vlogs. We made a ton of videos on exactly where we stayed and what we did. Those will also be linked in the description. This breakdown will be for 2 people traveling as a couple, and all the prices I tell you will be in US dollars. Just as a little background, Fiji is a small island nation located in the South Pacific. It is pretty far away from North America, so one of your biggest expenses is going to be flights. As I work for a major US airline, Kevin and I were able to utilize my travel benefits for this flight, so I'm not going to be including the flight details or the flight price. It just depends on the time of year and where you're flying from, so your flight prices are really going to fluctuate a lot. And let's get to it. Our first category is transportation. For the first 7 days of our trip, we rented a car to explore the main island of Viti Levu. We rented the car through budget and picked it up at the international airport. This car cost $595 for the 7 days that we had it. Our first few days in Fiji were spent on the Coral Coast, which is a beautiful area that's kind of off the beaten path, so we explored some wild beaches and local restaurants. We drove around quite a bit, driving back and forth from the port a few times for tours. The rental car was really small, so we ended up using about $25 in gas. For the second half of our trip, after we returned our rental car, we decided to visit the Mamanuca Islands for a few days, so we had to take a ferry boat. Since we returned our rental car to the airport, we had to make our way to Port Denarau. We had to take a bus to get to the port, and that cost $30 for 2 people. You can also book a taxi to the port, which is what we ended up doing on our way back from the Mamanucas, and that's $35 one way, so it's about the same price. The transportation options were a bit limited. There were only 3 options: a private speedboat, a helicopter, hello bougie, and a ferry, which is what we took. The ferry was by far the cheapest option as it's considered public transportation, but it still cost us $386.80 for the round trip, which is pretty expensive. That brings our transportation total to $1,046.80. The next category is accommodation. We stayed in 3 different hotels during our trip. Our first hotel was definitely our most budget accommodation at the trip, the Ramada by Wyndham Seafront Coral Coast. For the 3 nights we stayed there, we paid $293.39. It was really nice, and I would definitely recommend anyone who's trying to save a little money in Fiji to stay there. You can find hotels and Airbnbs that are cheaper than that, but we went with that because it was within our budget and it had nice reviews. Our next accommodation was on the higher end. It was the more luxury Intercontinental Fiji Golf Resort and Spa, and we stayed there for 4 nights. If we had just paid cash for this hotel, it would have cost us around $600 per night. It even goes up from there during the peak season. But we did a little travel hacking and we had some IHG points saved up, so we were able to book 4 nights at the Intercontinental for 144,000 points. But we didn't have quite enough points to book those 4 nights, so we ended up having to purchase some points. One thing that IHG does, they often have promos. It's kind of a 2-for-1 deal. You get 100% bonus on points that you buy. So I waited until one of those sales came along, so I was able to buy twice as many points for the same price. One other hack I utilized for these points is that I have an IHG credit card, so I was able to book 4 nights with points for the price of 3, so you get that 4th night free. I will link that credit card down in the description, so if you stay with IHG a lot and you want to check it out, that is a great credit card to have. Our third hotel was the Sheraton Tokoriki Resort and Spa. We stayed there for 4 nights and we just paid outright for that hotel at $666.24. The Sheraton is a mid-range option, so that comes to about $166 per night, which is pretty good for an island resort in Fiji. So in total, our accommodation cost was $1,339.63 plus the IHG points we spent. Our next category is food. In this section, I'll be talking about general price of meals, prices of alcohol, snacks, and coffees. For the most part, food was relatively affordable, much more affordable than, say, French Polynesia or the Maldives. We were able to find a few budget places to eat where we could get a breakfast meal, which was breakfast for 2 people, including 2 large coffees for $17.59. One of our favorite places we ate on this trip was called the Crab Shack Fiji. It was a local place down on the Coral Coast, and we ate there for 2 nights. Dinner costs about $50 each night, and that included a couple of drinks, appetizers, and entrees for both of us, which is really affordable. We ended up buying some extra alcohol at the grocery store, and a beer will cost you $1 to $2, and a bottle of wine is like about $10. At the resorts, things ended up being a little more expensive. Our most expensive meal was at the Intercontinental's fine dining restaurant Navo. There we had 2 entrees and 2 bottles of water, and the total was about $110. So depending on where you eat, the food costs can really run the gamut. So for food outside of the resorts, we spent about $440. During our time at the Intercontinental, our breakfast was included with our room rate, but we did purchase some lunches and dinners and snacks and drinks while we were there. Our total for food at the Intercontinental was $490. At the Sheraton Tokoriki, breakfast was also included, and our food total with lunches and dinners and all that was $225. That brings our total food and beverage costs to $1,152.90. Our fourth and final category will cover our activities and any other miscellaneous purchases. We didn't spend much on activities, we just purchased one all-day tour, which we bought through Get Your Guide. I will link that in the description. It was excellent, highly recommended. The tour we took is the #1 rated tour in Fiji. We made 3 different stops, one to a sandbar, one to an awesome snorkeling spot, and one to Manuriki Island, which is where Castaway was filmed. It included lunch, and it definitely deserved the top rating that it got, and it was $136 a person. Some other miscellaneous purchases were like parking at Port General, which was $15, and also an Airalo SIM card, which was $25. That brings our grand total for 11 days in Fiji to $3,851.96. Make sure to hit us up in the comments if you have any questions. Make sure you watch our other Fiji videos and subscribe. We'll see you in the next video. This is Kelly from the Awkward Tourists. Peace out. And any other consumable items. That's down. Don't. But that's just what we went. But we went with.
You are recording. We've got you from about mid-Buffy to about 1 Buffy above your head.